Hey, we're continuing our series on Journey to Resurrection, but before we think about resurrection, there has to be death. So, what is something dead in your refrigerator? You're like, what? No, I keep my refrigerator. Now, wait a second. What is something, because all of us in our refrigerator probably have a few things that might have a little mold on the top. Maybe we've got a little bit of decomposed lettuce, maybe some carrots or some cucumbers that are a little rank. This is the journey to resurrection, but before you have resurrection, you have to have death, right? So last week we talked about Lazarus, and Lazarus was good and dead. Jesus raised him from the dead, kind of like practice resurrection. This week, we're continuing to talk about the journey to resurrection, but we're talking about Palm Sunday. Oh my goodness, I love Palm Sunday. And anybody who knows me, has been around me in just a minute, they're like, woo! It's like her favorite Sunday of the whole calendar year because it's like one giant party. And this is on the journey to resurrection. Yeah, you're going to have a death, but there's going to be a few parties and celebrations along the way. And so when you think about Palm Sunday, oftentimes we zero in on palms, right? The fronds, the palms that they put down on the road as Jesus was coming into Jerusalem, his triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Palms. And they threw down, you can read it in Matthew chapter 21, they threw down coats and palms and, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. I mean, it's just the whole city turns out. It's turned upside down, inside out, and all of the regular common people are stoked that Jesus is here. I love Palm Sunday just for that exact reason, to celebrate the arrival of Jesus. And that just makes my heart flutter right inherently right there. Like Jesus is coming. Oh, Jesus here, he's walking. Oh my goodness. And he's on a donkey riding, and so it's just massive party. And everybody's amped. They're amped with excitement. The religious people are amped with angst. They're amped with angst because they're like, they confront Jesus. You shouldn't let this be happening. You should calm the crowd down. This is inappropriate. This is way over the top. I mean, they have all these problems with Jesus. But the regular general population has zero problems with Jesus. They're just stoked. They're over the moon excited that he is in their city. Oh my goodness, they're totally amped. But here's the thing. Not only is there a celebration for Palm Sunday, but I also find it super interesting. Jesus is coming to Jerusalem. He'll be crucified. He'll rise from the dead, journey to resurrection. But in this celebration Sunday, his arrival, he doesn't just park at a house and say, let's sit back, relax, and have a party and celebrate. Jesus goes immediately after entering Jerusalem. The very first thing that he does is he goes to the temple, which is the center capital of all of Jewish worship. That's where they sacrifice bulls and cows, and this is where the Ark of the Covenant is probably. And, the temple has been around since Moses' tabernacle plan back, 3,000, 2,000 years ago. So the temple is huge. It is iconic, a huge capital for all of Jewish worship. And observant Jewish people come to the temple, particularly during Passover, which is at similar timing or whatever. Anyways, they come to the temple and they do their celebrations, their sacrifices, their worship, their offerings to God. But Jesus comes to the temple, and instead of doing a sacrifice, a worship, an offering, which would be in line with like the celebration of his arrival, when Jesus comes into the temple, he does the exact opposite. He turns everything upside down, inside out. He overturns the money changers' table. He releases all the animals that are there to be bought for sacrifices. So birds are flying everywhere. Tables are being upended. Money's flying everywhere. And Jesus is completely upending the whole system of worship. And his expression in it, he's angry. He's angry at what's happening in the temple. And he goes to the very heart of Judaism and confronts it. And not just confronts it, but completely upends the whole thing. Whoa, hold on just a second, stop. Wait, we got a joke break. Of course we have a joke break. And we have this amazing, very timely, integrated joke for this episode. Think about this. What kind of tree can you put in your hand? You could put a palm tree in your hand for Palm Sunday. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. So let's get back to something more meaningful. And then, of course, all the Jewish leaders naturally are like, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? You can't just come into our house and behave like a brute. That's not appropriate. And Jesus says, God had said, let my house be a house of prayer and not a house of thieves, not a den of thieves. And by coming into the temple and doing what he did, Jesus was communicating, you guys have lost the plot. You missed the point. The point of all this worship, of all this sacrifice, of all of this, systems and structures for the temple and everything, it is to have a personal relationship with God. You guys have emphasized the structure and the systems more than the original core meaning. And so I want to get rid of all the structures and the systems and all of the detours that take people away from worshiping, being authentic with God. Let's come back to level set. Let's level set what we're doing here. Strip the religion and come back to ground zero relationship. I bring this to your attention because, again, the journey to resurrection needs to include some recalculation, recalibration. Because if we're not careful, sometimes we take detours into religious behaviors, what we think is appropriate, and trying to measure up and trying to earn and trying to be worthy. And Jesus came to set us free from religion. Jesus came to let us know that we are God's children, God's son, God's daughter. 1 John 3:1. And he is well pleased in us. Relationship needs to be ground zero over religion. And that's part of the journey to resurrection. So as we think about this, I love taking it into our own hearts on our own journey. And we're going to talk about Good Friday coming up. We're on the heels of Good Friday as well as Easter and the whole celebration. So thinking about this, remember, Jesus is risen from the dead, and we're on the journey to resurrection with him in the dead areas of our life. Catch you next week.